Do people who live in large cities just never hear silence? Even out in the country you hear the sounds of 1,000 animals trying to get laid. I live in Tokyo. It's 1:35 a.m. and pretty silent at the moment. If you're in a place that snows, it's crazy how much that fresh powder on everything sucks away sound and creates silence. No one lives in silence, the universe is noisy. Profound question. I live in NYC. I don't care now silence until I vacation in the woods. I live in Texas and pretty close to an interstate. Whenever there's a freeze it's almost dead silent and it bothers me because of how quiet it is. I like the sound of the city though. It sounds like the ocean. Nope. Always a rattle and hum, but you get used to it. It blends into the background. I moved from a city to a rural area many years ago. The silence took years to get used to. The rhythm of the city would put me to sleep. Unless you are in the very center of the city, it will be silent at night. This is so weird to me. Cities can be more silent, since they have a lot less wildlife in comparison. I live in Brooklyn, NY. My neighborhood is relatively residential and my apartment is in the rear of the building. I get no street noise and no loud neighbors most of the time. There are occasional sirens, fireworks, or loud music, but many nights, especially on cold winter weeknights, it feels as quiet as a remote cabin in the woods. I have tinnitus in both ears. Silence is a myth. If you live in a bustling city, you'll likely hear cars, trains, and other sounds all night long. At first, it can be quite startling, but with time, you learn to tune it out and find a way to sleep. I never thought I'd be able to sleep through a train passing right outside my window every night, but it only took me a week to get used to it. At 4 p.m. on a Sunday when the temp is -20 F and it's snowing. Downtown Chicago is quiet in my apartment so long as the window isn't open. I live in the city, but have a cottage on an island on a remote lake, and I can tell you firsthand that it's quieter on average in the city, but the noises are more pleasant in nature. Although at the cottage in the spring the bullfrogs can get so loud that you can feel the vibrations in the walls. It depends. The vast majority of the noise of a city is from traffic. Some cities, especially European ones, are doing more with adopting more pedestrian-first policies, bike lanes, narrower roads, etc. Amsterdam, for example, can have outdoor areas where people meet and hang out yet are as quiet as inside a library. American cities, being so car-centric, are not this though. We have large roads and often higher speed limits when traffic allows. Even electric cars are basically as loud as normal cars once you hit 25 mph or so because of road noise. So yes, a lot of major cities have severe noise pollution issues and it's actually a legitimate health hazard that affects eye more than just hearing loss. But it's not all cities. And it's not something we have to live with, we just choose to because we treat cars as important than people. Your brain makes the silence by filtering out sounds you hear consistently, which is why you haven't heard the man walking up behind you as you read this. You just get used to it. I lived in one of the busiest neighborhoods in Seoul and it was always noisy regardless of what time of day it was. City buses and subways run from like 5 to midnight. Even from midnight to dawn, that's when the garbage trucks and delivery motorcycles are busy. Lots of midnight drunks scream their hearts out. I admit I did get mad from time to time at drunkards and at the constant revving of motorcycles. There is just a lot of noise pollution from having so many people crammed in one place, and if it's quiet, it feels really eerie. I eventually moved to the outskirts of Seoul where most of the residents are older and nearby restaurants closed at reasonable times, so I finally got some peace and quiet after midnight when the buses stopped running. If you get used to it and don't notice anymore, is it still considered noise? I live downtown in my city. My place faces the internal courtyard of my building, so we are fairly well insulated from street noise. Sometimes we hear loud cars, sirens, or planes. More often I hear kids playing in the courtyard or my neighbors on their balconies. Right now it's almost silent. It's midday on a weekday and I'm at home with all of the windows open. It's definitely a lot quieter here than when we lived in a suburban neighborhood. I didn't notice it as much when we lived there. But when I went back to take care of things after our move, I was amazed at the constant sound: loud cars, barking dogs, lawn care equipment, power tools, etc. Why this reminded me of Uncle Vinny's scene when he spends the night in jail and gets the best sleep because it's loud like New York.